All right, guys, we are back. This is a really important one. I'm here with Ryan, one of our students here in Finksburg. And Ryan is a police officer. How long have you been a police officer for?
13 years.
13 years. And talk about what you specialize in,
So,
just in general.
yeah, so I teach at the academy, defensive tactics, emergency vehicle operations, firearms, and then our medical training.
Okay. And I've also taken Ryan's medical class for civilians. Outstanding. I have my trauma kit and my tourniquet, and every time I go shooting, every time I travel with the kids, it's with me. I believe personal self-protection is more than just hurting people. You know, it's contrary to popular, but we have to know how to help people out too. That class was a game changer. But specifically, what I want to talk to you about today. So you are tasked with training new police officers when they come into the academy, fresh off the streets. Some of them have no experience.
Yep.
Tell us why your department has kind of chosen Gracie Jiu-Jitsu as your primary defensive tactics system.
Jiu-Jitsu works. And, you know, a lot of the time, people aren't trying to hurt us. They're trying to get away. And Jiu-Jitsu is an easy way to control people, to hold them down, without throwing punches and elbows. We're bound by the Constitution, in the Fourth Amendment, and we're bound by certain Supreme Court cases that say, the reasonable standard was the force reasonable under those circumstances. And a lot of times officers use force when it's appropriate. The force or the amount of force they use was not appropriate. And a common theme amongst departments across the country is that ineffective force looks like excessive force. And
Yes.
when you see these videos of officers, they're using the reason they're using force is appropriate. The force they're using is not, and it's because it's ineffective. And when something's ineffective, you just keep ratcheting it up until it becomes effective. You'll have a suspect that's turtled up, and the officer just on top landing punches because he doesn't know how to effectively control them and get them into handcuffs. So Gracie Jiu-Jitsu gives us those solutions. We train Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. Specifically, we train our officers in the Gracie Survival Tactics, the GST program. All of our DT
Which, if you guys are unfamiliar with this is Henry and Hiron Gracie. Shout out to those guys. Probably the best defensive tactics system made specifically for law enforcement. If you're an LEO and you don't know what it is, you've been living under a rock, first off. But you should definitely get your officers involved if they're doing that. And if I can just say one thing too, you get the double benefit of you guys also have a Gracie Jiu-Jitsu black belt,
Yep.
who is your lieutenant who oversees everything, all of it, right?
Absolutely. I mean, he's a huge resource, to all of us. He oversees the program. We're very fortunate. We have a nice gym in our building, in our academy. We have a huge mat room.
I have to say that Ryan's department is exemplary. Those of you that are friends with me on social media know that I am very critical of the police. I have been on the receiving end of some really horrible treatment from the police in the past because exactly what you're talking about. I was an idiot too, right? I was breaking the law, so I get what I get. But I have worked with so many different departments, and really Ryan's department, because all of the other defensive tactics instructors that I'm aware of, they're all our students. They're all blue belts or higher under us.
Yep.
Which is just like amazing, and like your cadets don't know how good they have it because now was it always this way? Were you guys always, because I know before Mike took over that there were some other things being taught. So can you talk about maybe what you've learned in the past and why maybe you appreciate the transition to Gracie Jiu-Jitsu and the Gracie Survival Tactics as opposed to maybe some other primary defensive tactics that you were learning in the past?
Yeah, so I was fortunate. My lieutenant, who's the Gracie black belt, was there when I went through the academy, and he was one of my academy instructors, and so I was introduced from ground level to Gracie.
Okay.
When I went through defensive tactics instructor school, they don't just teach Gracie; they teach some Krav, some other stuff that it's here nor there. So I kind of saw the other stuff, and then I saw the Gracie stuff, and I've been pretty fortunate. The Gracie was brought to our agency by an academy instructor that was before my time.
Okay.
And actually, I think he was before his time. He was, it was the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu was just starting to make its way into the law enforcement stuff. He saw, what it could bring to us and the problems that it could solve. So a lot of people in our agency, I don't know if there's very many people that have not been exposed to the Gracie in one way or another.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, you're in charge of this, training these people, but we were just discussing off camera, you're going back in the field soon.
Yep.
How do you feel now that you've been, because Ryan's a blue belt, a very good blue belt too, in great shape. These are like important things, like I tell people this, don't become a cop if you're scared to fight people and you're going to be an overweight slob. Right? Can we be real about that?
Yep. I'm a firm believer that the day you raise your right hand and you take that oath, you give up your right to be out of shape.
Thank you, bro. You give up your right to not know how to fight.
Yep.
And you give up your right to not be in, like, you can't be out of shape.
People call you in their worst moments, when they need help, and I know if my wife would call 911 and she needed help from the police and the cop showed up and he was fat, he was out of shape, he didn't know how to handle himself. That's a bad day for my family.
Yes.
And I know, you're a family man, you don't mess with stuff with your family. So, I owe it to the community that I serve to be in the best shape I can. I'm not, not jacked.
Well, how old are you?
But I'm 39.
Okay. So, believe it or not, dude, for dudes in our 30s, we're in really good shape compared to the rest of the people watching out here. Sorry guys, but we kind of are. Now that might come off a certain way, but you know what? He's a police officer. I'm a martial arts instructor. And like you said, I have kids. I owe it to them. I can't be a slob. I can't be A, it's a bad example. I don't want them to grow up like that. And B, if I have to protect them, like we were just joking about Mr. Jiu-Jitsu, he's right though. If I had to pull them out of a burning building or jump into a pond and swim and save them, or they're, in the ocean, I need to save them, or someone's trying to grab them and I need to fight this guy off and stop them, I got to be able to do that.
And so many cops think that they have the badge, they know how to fight.
Or I'll just shoot the guy.
Or hey, I'm a cop, you're going to listen to me. Well, that doesn't always happen.
No.
And I made a promise to my kids that I'll always come home to them, and I, intend on keeping that promise. Part of me keeping that promise is, knowing how to fight, knowing how to shoot, being in better physical condition than hopefully my opponent.
Hell yeah.
To ensure that I keep that promise to my kids and I keep coming home every day.
And like we said, Ryan's department is very exemplary, but the standards for all police departments are very low for defensive tactics and qualifying for shooting and stuff like that. It's like once a year, right?
And they vary agency to agency.
Mm-hmm. So we have to remember too that Ryan's here on his own dime, coming to class, 3-4 classes a week, going to the range, training. Like, you have to remember, if you're a police officer and watching out, there's bad guys out there training right now too that will whoop your ass. If I was on the wrong side of the law and I decided that I'm not going to go, trust me, I'm probably better at shooting than you, and I'm definitely better at fighting than you. And it's going to be a cold day in hell before you're going to beat someone that's brown or black belt level. And I hear people all the time, they're like, well, that's uncommon. You don't get to pick your opponent, right? You don't get to pick who, you don't get to pick the day and time and opponent when your time comes to actually have to fight somebody. And
one of the first lessons I learned training here is you can't judge a book by its cover.
No.
So many guys that I know will go out and be like, well, I could take him. You look around and you have people that are very diverse, group of people that train, and you can't look at somebody and be like, oh, I could take them.
Yeah.
That's one of the hardest lessons you learn.
Look at some of the teenagers that train with us that are, like barely 120 pounds and, like 5'5". They could probably get away from the average out of shape officer and just run away, and then you look like a clown. But as critical as I am, well, and I just have to say this: the reason why I'm critical of law enforcement, it's one of the few jobs. If you fuck your job up, people can die. That's why I'm critical of it. You know what I mean? But on the other end of that spectrum, I have so much respect for officers like Ryan and Mike Johnson and people that come in here, and John, that take it seriously, that take their own time out of their day. He could be at home with his family right now, right? But it's important to him to go home to his family, so he's sacrificing the time here so that when he goes back in the field in a couple months, he's prepared, right? How long has it been since you've been in the field?
About 2.5 years.
So before you trained.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you feel now going into that situation compared to maybe back then, like as far as preparation?
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know, and 2.5 years ago, I was probably that guy that said, I'm a DT instructor, I don't train on my own, I can handle myself. And once you start training, you realize, I got a lot to learn, and you don't, even now, there's always more to learn, and so, I think I'm better prepared. We've got good resources where I work.
Hell yeah. I mean,
so, I think if you're not training, you're doing yourself disservice. Disservice. You're doing the public a disservice. You're doing your family a disservice. If you're in law enforcement. So yeah, you got to train. There's a movement, BJJ, make it mandatory. These hashtags, and it should be. Hell yeah. There's no reason not to.
And we'll wrap it up here, but I just want to say this too. Like, I do believe that because there's so much bullshit that we hear in the media. But I work with a lot of police, and I believe that Ryan represents the majority of how most police officers think. They just want to go home. They want to serve the public. They're not violent people that are trying to hurt anybody. But it can be perceived that way if their defensive tactics are off and they don't know jiu-jitsu. It can look terrible. You know what I mean? But Ryan will say this. We are huge supporters of law enforcement here. If you're a cop, especially if you live in the area, you got to come in here. We're here to help you out. Ryan will tell you, we're not going to embarrass you. We're not going to humiliate you, make you feel like you know nothing. It's not like that. Like, we welcome you. We want you to come in here because at the end of the day, you might pull over someone I know. You know what I mean? Or you might have to protect someone that I care about. I'm making an investment with you. You're making an investment in yourself. And together, we're making the community stronger. It's great. And again, we're not really supposed to talk about when we interview police what departments they work for, but you guys can pretty much there's only so many counties in Maryland. You can pretty much use some basic reasoning and figure out where he works. If you're a police officer, this is a great department to work for too. And I know you guys are always looking for new recruits, and I know for a fact that if you know jiu-jitsu, it's something that's smiled upon.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I was given Mike's number and name several times before I ever joined, and it's it's something new. It's getting out of your comfort zone. Coming in and training. Maybe you're not good at it. Jumping in the deep end. But it's just like working out. When you work out, you're like, I don't know if I want to get to the gym. I don't know if I want to go. The hardest part's tying your shoes, getting your shoes on. Once you get shoes on, you get in the gym. The rest runs itself. Hardest part is getting in here. Once I got in here, I was like, God, why didn't I do this earlier?
Exactly.
That's what everyone says. Not doing this earlier. And I've gained friends, here, that I'm close with. It's great, especially law enforcement. If you're law enforcement, 90% of your friends, if you're like me, 90% of your friends are cops or firefighters. It's good having friends that are outside of that circle.
Awesome.
Ton of benefits.
Hell yeah, bro. Get in here and train. And again, keep up the great work. Ryan just got promoted too, so congratulations on your promotion.
Thank you.
And good luck out there in the field, bro.
Thanks.
Hell yeah. That was a good one.